Hey hippies, welcome back. It's Courtney Shavante. I'm back with another banging resin tutorial for you guys. This one's going to be for this super adorable light up tray with our little afro girl sitting here. If this is something you're interested in, make sure you do stay tuned and also hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss anything moving forward. Alright hippies, so to start out, we're just going to go ahead and get our mold ready, make sure it's nice and clean and there's no debris. I prepped about 20 milliliters of resin here just so that we can go ahead and decorate our rim. We're not going to need a whole lot because the crystals that I have here, this obsidian, is going to take up a good amount of space. So I poured about half of that resin right into the rim and I'm moving it around to make sure that it kind of gets into the spaces and everything. I spilt my crystals, but don't mind that. I'm just going to go ahead and open these up and everything. I have the tumbled little bits here. I will have them available in my Amazon storefront so that we can check them out, but I'm just going to go ahead and put these into the rim of my tray, creating a nice little randomized pattern and stuff, and I just want it to kind of act as a border within the rim. I'm also adding the resin as I go just to make sure it kind of fills in the spaces, and it's also going to help prevent bubbles as I add the resin in, you know, bit by bit versus adding it in all at once. And it also just makes sure that all the crystals are actually covered as well. So yeah, just go ahead and take your time with this part. Continue adding these crystals in and everything, and just make sure that you have them where you want them. Alright, once you finish manipulating all the crystals and you have those set, we're going to go ahead and prep our lights. So what you see me doing first is just kind of unraveling it a bit, and then I'm going to use my paintbrush and just kind of wind this wire all the way down my paintbrush handle, and I'm just going to kind of push it down as I go, and then it just creates this nice little coil for me, which is way easier to manipulate and place into my resin. So this is a nice little resin hack if you haven't seen it before. And then I just kind of measure it out, and then from there I can fold my wire into place and place it into the rim with this resin. Now if it does come up over the side of the mold a bit, that's fine, because these lights can always be pushed down later to like kind of squish them down a bit. So really what I want you to focus on is making sure that you have the wire in place exactly where you want it into the rim, and making sure that it's like, you know, really around the rim, and it's not and all the bottom parts of the wire are submerged into the resin. So I hope that makes sense and everything. Just kind of follow what I'm doing on screen. You also want to take the end of that cord and you want to submerge as much of it into the resin as possible, just so that way there's not so much of the cord hanging off from the tray once it is fully cured and everything. And also you just want to be mindful of where you're placing it. This doesn't leave a lot of room for error just because I'm doing a clear tray. Now if you are using colored resin and everything, then you are going to have a lot more forgiveness, but I won't. So I'm just trying to be mindful of where everything is placed and where everything's going to be showing. Once I finish with this part, I'm just going to go ahead and spray my alcohol to release any bubbles, and then we're going to allow this to cure, hippies. All right, so once everything is cured, you should have it to where it's still poking up with the lights. And this is what I was talking about. You just want to go ahead and press down on those LED lights, which should be super easy because we didn't drop any resin directly on top of the lights. So there won't be any hardness or anything like that to worry about. I'm also spraying a little bit of my alcohol over the mold just to help with the bubbles and everything, especially since I'm going to be adding foils and everything as well. It's just going to make sure that any bubbles that do get trapped into those etchings, it makes it a little bit easier for them to rise to the surface. So I took my gold foil. I'm just going to go ahead and mix it into about 80 milliliters of resin that I have pre-prepped over here. Mix up really good to get the bubbles out. And then you just want to go ahead and start pouring in bits so that way you can manipulate the resin, push it around. Like I said, this helps to prevent any bubbles and any issues with the etchings and all of that. It also allows you time to push the resin in between the coils of those lights and stuff, so that way there aren't any bubbles forming into the rim. Get in with the heat gun as well to thin that out and push it around further, just to make sure that you have the look that you're going for. Now before you put the remaining resin in, I'm just going to go ahead and place some flowers in here face down around my girl in the tray here, and then I'm going to use the same resin stick that I've been using and push those flowers down as close to the surface of this base that I can, and that's going to help keep them from floating and moving all around and moving into a place where you didn't intend for them to be. So after I have all my flowers pressed down, I'm just going to go ahead and pour the remaining of my resin into the mold. I'm trying to also make sure I get all those gold foil bits in there, just so I can make sure they're moved around and they look very randomized and everything. Don't want it to look too planned. So yeah, after you go ahead, make sure that you have it into these little cracks and crevices in the corners. Like I said, it's really hard making sure you don't get these bubbles trapped, but this is where you really need to be diligent and pay attention and make sure that they are not trapped, because this is going to be our final layer for our base outside of covering our etchings and everything. So once you do have that set, just go ahead and spray your alcohol like we did before to release any bubbles that rise, and then allow this to cure completely. All right, so it's time to demold. We're going to go ahead and just kind of pull the edges, never bend the resin, always bend the mold. But this is basically like kind of how it comes out after the mold and everything, outside the mold. And now we're just going to take our acrylic paint here and we're going to start filling in these etchings. You're going to push the paint into the etchings using your paintbrush, and then that should get in there really nicely for you. Make sure that you have a nice thick layer and you can't see through to the bottom and everything, so that way the etchings are really doing what they need to do. If you guys are really enjoying this mold, make sure you do check out my Etsy shop. I do have them available on my Etsy shop along with so many others, and I'm constantly adding more molds to my shop so that way I can really help you guys enhance your resin art. I'm always trying to come out with some afro ladies, some lock ladies, natural hair, because representation matters. So if that matters to you, you know where to find me. Link in the caption. But yeah, so just go ahead and continue filling that in, making sure that you have it nice and thick. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to allow this paint to completely dry. Alright, so once all that paint is nice and dry, what we're going to do is we're going to take our damp rag, spray some alcohol directly onto that excess paint, and then you're just going to wipe away the excess paint using that damp rag. You don't want the rag to be wet enough to leave any moisture marks behind. You just want it to be wet enough to actually be able to pick up that paint and help it ease off the tray. It should be super simple. You shouldn't have to do too much scraping or anything, because the acrylic paint comes off of the non-etched smooth part of the resin super easy. So just go ahead and continue making sure you get all that excess up, because like I said, this is a clear background and we don't want to leave any little excess stray marks on here. So once you do have everything cleaned off, you're just going to prep another 15 milliliters of resin or so, and then you're going to cover the base of the tray. Now, if you do need to use more than 15 milliliters, you can go up to maybe about 20 or so to completely cover the bottom of this, but you don't want it to pour so much to the point where it kind of defeats the purpose of the space between the base of the tray and the rim. You want it to continue being a tray. So just take that stick, drag it all the way across the edges to make sure that the etchings are completely covered and there are no spaces along the cracks or anything like that. And then you're just going to allow this to completely cure, hippies. Ta-da! This right here is our finished project, and I know I'm a bit biased, but I think she is absolutely beautiful. I love how this obsidian looks in this clear casting. I love these clear castings. I've been doing a bit more of them lately if you haven't noticed. I love how relaxed our girl looks in here on this little bed of flowers along with this foil. I like how the foil doesn't disrupt the etchings, or the flowers doesn't either. And I like that she's like still clearly visible. And like, look at that clear background. Like, that is awesome. If you guys are having any trouble on getting your resin completely clear and bubble free, I will link a video down below into the caption showing you how I do so and get those bubbles completely removed. But this is what she looks like with her light turned on and everything. Still just as stunning. I love that you can use this in the dark. It can act as like a little night light and everything. No need to turn on that big lamp when you're rolling up. So she's absolutely perfect. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything that I can answer for you, please leave them in the comments below. I absolutely love hearing from you guys. And until next time, hippies, I will catch you later. Mwah! Bye now.